Hi, it's Katrina. What does it take to scare a man who has braved space and walked on the moon? In 2016, legendary astronaut Buzz Aldrin went to the most remote place on Earth, the South Pole, and he was immediately evacuated with a sudden critical illness. The official story is altitude sickness, but a wild conspiracy that erupted online says he saw a great evil slumbering in the ice, something so terrifying it almost stopped his heart. Now, while the specific tweet that started this firestorm was debunked, it taps into a much deeper mystery. What if this crazy story is just the tip of the iceberg? Because Antarctica is a continent of secrets. We're talking about strange pyramids hiding in plain sight, satellite images of what look like massive underground bases, and tales of lost civilizations frozen in time. Let's go to the world's most mysterious continent and see what could be hiding underneath all that ice. The ice wall. Fact or fiction? Antarctica is actually home to many ice walls. When you approach the continent, a huge shelf of ice rises above you as if you've reached the end of the planet. But that's only the edge of the landmass. Is there another, larger ice wall at the end of Antarctica? Science and logic says no. Every person who has ever flown in an airplane says no. Yet the theory persists that a towering frosty barrier looms at the edge of the Earth. For centuries, whispers have floated across coffee-stained maps and message boards. People keep asking what lies beyond the Antarctic ice wall. Atlantis, alien cities, interdimensional portals? According to some, all of the above. But hold on. Is there actually a mile-high wall of ice keeping us from discovering hidden continents? Or is this just flat Earth fan fiction taken way too seriously? Let's put on our parkas and dive into one of the internet's frostiest obsessions. First, where did the story start? The idea of an impassable Antarctic barrier isn't new. You'll find hints of it in ancient mythology and old sailor lore. But the current version of the ice wall conspiracy has its roots deep in flat Earth theory. According to flat earthers, Antarctica isn't a continent. It's a massive circular wall of ice ringing the edges of the flat Earth, preventing ships, planes, and common sense from sailing over the edge. And what's beyond it? That's where things really go off the rails. Some claim there are undiscovered continents, lost civilizations, or alternate realities hiding just behind that frigid curtain. Now let's bring in some sanity, shall we? Yes, Antarctica is home to the largest sheet of ice on Earth, 5.4 million square miles of frozen grandeur holding 60% of the world's fresh water. But that ice isn't a wall, it's a cap. A continent's worth of glaciers, ice shelves, and subglacial lakes sit on top of solid ground. The whole thing has been extensively mapped by satellites, radar, aircraft, and research expeditions. NASA's Operation Icebridge has flown over Antarctica with state-of-the-art sensors. Ground-penetrating radar has revealed hidden mountains, valleys, and lakes under the ice. You know what it hasn't found? Sadly, a portal to another dimension. Still, the mystery persists. Probably because humans just can't resist a good legend. After all, here we are talking about it, right? Do you believe in the ice wall? Or is Antarctica mysterious enough? Supervolcanoes of Antarctica. At the bottom of the world where penguins waddle like they own the place and the wind cuts right through you like a jealous ex, there stands a fire-breathing monster that doesn't care how cold it is. No, it's not a dragon. It's Mount Erebus, Antarctica's answer to Mordor. Except instead of forging evil rings, Mount Erebus casually sneezes gold into the sky like it's trying to start a luxury skincare brand. Mount Erebus is a real volcano that produces real gold. It's the southernmost active volcano in Antarctica, perched 12,448 feet high on Ross Island, surrounded by ice and frothing precious gold. You can't make this stuff up. And it's been bubbling with a lava lake that hasn't taken a day off since at least 1972. That is over 5 decades of non-stop molten rage. Named after the Greek god of darkness, Mount Erebus was mid-eruption when British explorer Captain Sir James Clark Ross first laid eyes on it in 1841. He even named Ross Island after himself, because modesty is overrated when you're exploring Antarctica in a wooden ship. Imagine stumbling upon a volcano as it's erupting. You would think God was about to smite you. Now let's talk about the money shot. Scientists discovered that this moody mountain releases microscopic gold crystals. These are tiny, glittery particles no bigger than 20 micrometers. It's like the volcano has a glitter cannon in it. But how much gold can you even get from tiny 20 micrometer particles? Actually, a surprising amount. In one day, the volcano coughs up around 80 grams of gold, worth roughly $6,000. Not bad, right? But good luck collecting it. That gold dust doesn't just settle at the base of the volcano waiting for someone to come get it. The gold flakes drift away on the wind. Researchers have detected Erebus's gold emissions up to 621 miles away. So yeah, Antarctica is technically the world's coldest gold rush. Sled dogs not included. Erebus isn't all glitter and glam though. It has a tragic chapter burned into aviation history. On November 28, 1979, Air New Zealand Flight 901, a sightseeing tour to Antarctica, collided head-on with the volcano. Was the pilot taking a nap or what? How do you not see Mount Doom rising from the snow and ice? Tragically, all 257 people aboard were killed instantly. It was supposed to be an 11-hour joyride from Auckland and back. Instead, it became one of the deadliest aviation disasters in history. That's the tragic part. Now here's the spooky bit. Photos recovered from passengers' cameras showed clear visibility. There were no ominous clouds, no obvious mountain lurking in view, so what went wrong? Experts believe there was a whiteout, an optical illusion that blended the snow-covered volcano seamlessly with the sky. The pilot, thinking he was flying above the flat Antarctic landscape, was actually diving straight into a 12,000-foot volcano. Erebus didn't hide, it just wore the perfect camouflage. Not to freak you out even more, but this volcano could be the death of us all. Scientists are sounding the alarm because climate change may be poking the bear, or in this case, the magma chambers. As Antarctica melts in the extreme heat of our new reality, the weight pressing down on its volcanoes is getting lighter. And that means that magma could have an easier time surging to the surface. Translation: less ice equals more lava equals higher sea levels equals uh-oh. It's a domino effect that nobody wants, unless you're rooting for beachfront property in Nebraska. Will Mount Erebus plunge the world into chaos? Only time will tell. And now for a quick break because I want to give a big thank you to Monkey with a Hammer for the super thanks. It really means a lot and we wouldn't be here without you. Thanks so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already to join the Origins Explained family. The skull beneath the ice. Beneath the biting winds and glacial silence of Antarctica, where nothing seems to move but the occasional penguin with somewhere to be, a discovery was made that cracked open a mystery that could shape Antarctica's future. And make no mistake, Antarctica has a future. It's an entire unsettled continent. In a world of shrinking space and growing populations, Antarctica will surely host civilization one day, but whose? In 1985, Chilean biologist Dr. Daniel Torres bent down on Yamana Beach, brushed away some thick black volcanic sand, and uncovered a human skull. Not a fossil, not an old seal bone, a human skull staring silently back across the frozen shoreline. And that's when things got weird. The skull belonged to a young woman, no older than 21, short in stature, indigenous to southern Chile, and possibly the first known person to die in Antarctica. Her bones, dated between 1819 and 1825, are the oldest human remains ever discovered on the continent. And no one knows how she got there. There are no ship logs, no records, no historical mentions of anyone like her ever being there. So what the frostbitten heck was she doing in Antarctica? Dr. Torres and his team at the Chilean Antarctic Institute speculated that she might have arrived during the height of 19th century sealing and whaling. Sailing ships from Europe and North America were descending on the region like it was the original Wild West, just colder. It's entirely plausible this mystery woman was brought along, willingly or not, by a whaling crew. Or maybe she was part of a secret Chilean expedition. No one knows how she got there, or how she died, or why she died. In a weird twist of fate, because she was an indigenous Chilean, she might be exactly what Chile needs to claim Antarctica as their own. But if they do, they will be in for a long struggle with other powers who want Antarctica for themselves. As of right now, there is peace in Antarctica thanks to the Antarctic Treaty, which was signed in 1959. At the time, everyone agreed not to fight over the last untouched continent. The treaty froze all territorial claims and said, let's just do science here, okay? But the clock is ticking. In 2048, a crucial environmental protocol within the treaty that currently bans mining and resource exploitation will be up for review. This could be when the powers of the world start squabbling over Antarctica again. Professor Klaus Dodds, geopolitical brainiac at Royal Holloway, University of London, said the icy smiles of peace and cooperation are cracking. The professor claims that China and Russia are already laying quiet groundwork for what could be an icy game of Risk. Why are they so interested? Because Antarctica is believed to sit on top of massive untapped mineral and fossil fuel reserves. Right now, it's all sealed off by international agreement. But if the rules change, boom, resource rush. What are your thoughts? Who will come out on top? Nobody knows. Will it be Chile thanks to the mystery woman's bones? Or could 2050 see World War III Antarctica edition? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. The Ghosts of Antarctica. When peeking beyond the walls of ice in Antarctica, there's one thing that nobody looks for: ghosts. But what if I told you Antarctica is a haunted paranormal wasteland? Let's investigate some icy hauntings. First though, a cold, hard fact. Antarctica messes with your mind. It's a psychological cocktail of sensory deprivation and sleep disruption. Many explorers, tough, rational, often scientific types, have reported seeing things that weren't there. They've heard voices in the wind or felt a presence walking just behind them. Could be stress, could be the brain short-circuiting under extreme conditions, or maybe it's something a lot more paranormal. Home to McMurdo Station and the infamous Mount Erebus, where, if you'll remember our discussion earlier, over 250 people died in a tragic plane crash. Ross Island is Antarctica's paranormal ground zero. Ever since the 1979 crash, visitors have reported whispered voices carried by the wind and footsteps that appear next to theirs in the snow, though no one is there to make them. Who could be leaving these ghostly imprints? Presumably, the victims of the plane crash, lost and confused, far away from home. Have you ever felt watched even though you're alone? Try that feeling when your nearest neighbor is 800 miles away. It's even creepier. Away from Mount Erebus is the spookiest frozen hut in the world. Built for the Terra Nova expedition in 1911, Robert Scott's abandoned hut at Cape Evans is a ghost story waiting to happen. Tragically, Scott and his crew froze to death after reaching the South Pole. In fact, their final diary entries read like quiet, heartbreaking goodbyes. If you want to shed a few tears, just read the diaries and imagine the men cold, miserable, and knowing they're about to die. Crying guaranteed. Today, people who step into the hut describe a heavy, oppressive presence. It's like gloom physically pressed down on you, smothering you. Visitors hear footsteps echoing in rooms that haven't seen life in over a century. Some even say they've heard Scott himself, still pacing, still planning, still stuck. There's a place called Deception Island, but it is so creepy I have a whole spiel I'm going to do on it later, so don't miss out on that. Let's skip ahead to Wordie House. Once a British research station, now more like the haunted Airbnb of the South, Wordie House is known for doors slamming on their own, objects moving, and a general vibe of maybe I shouldn't be here. Researchers have chalked it up to temperature shifts and old wood settling. But when a coffee mug skids across the table by itself, yeah, that's harder to explain away. Are you eager for more ghosts? Because I can go on all day. Let's talk about the ghost ship known as Jenny. In 1840, legend says a whaling ship came upon the Jenny, trapped in ice since 1823. Everyone on board was frozen solid, mid-task, like statues at a wax museum. It was incredibly eerie. No one knew what happened to the crew. However, these days, no one even knows if the story is true. The Jenny has never been confirmed as a real ship. It was supposedly an English schooner, but there are no documents to prove it ever left port, sailed to Antarctica, and got stuck in the ice. If you're not a fan of frozen men and boats, don't worry. You can visit the ghost of Vladimir Lenin. Yes, that Lenin. His bust still stands at Antarctica's pole of inaccessibility, the most remote point on the continent. And if you believe the rumors, so does his ghost. A few Soviet researchers reportedly saw an apparition of the revolutionary leader watching over their camp. Maybe he was just making sure that capitalism hadn't reached the penguins. With a history of tragedy, isolation, and obsession, Antarctica is tailor-made for ghost stories. Whether you believe in spirits or just the spooky power of the human mind, one thing is clear: the ice holds memories, and some of them still whisper. Do you believe Antarctica is haunted, or are we just snowed in by our own imaginations? Antediluvian human fossils found. You know how some stories just grab you, even if they sound absolutely wild? Well, imagine hearing this one. Somewhere in the bone-rattling cold of Antarctica, a discovery apparently surfaced that would just obliterate everything we thought we knew about human history. We are talking about human skeletons allegedly found that are older than the dinosaurs. When I say older, I mean mind-bogglingly old, like 600 million years old. That is not just before the T-Rex roamed the earth. That's before fish even had backbones, before jellyfish floated through the primordial seas, and definitely long before anything remotely resembling a human being was strutting around. These skeletons are tiny, too, like something out of a fantasy movie. Think fairies, pixies, sprites, you name it. According to a publication called the National Reporter, we'll get back to the credibility of sources in a minute, a team of U.S. paleontologists was supposedly fossil hunting in Antarctica's ancient rocks, hoping for dinosaur clues. What they stumbled upon instead was, well, Darwin's worst nightmare and an ancient cryptid mystery rolled into one. Dr. Marley, reportedly from Cambridge University, supposedly described the first find: a complete human skeleton, just a couple of inches long, curled up inside sedimentary rock that predates pretty much all complex life. Not some jumbled mess either, but a whole humanoid skeleton. That's like finding an iPhone in the ruins of a medieval castle. Then came the second skeleton, laid out neatly, anatomically precise, as if it just didn't bother to grow past kindergarten height. The scientists were supposedly baffled, but oddly calm for people who might have just flipped all of evolutionary history on its head. It's clear from our data that they are definitely human, Dr. Marley confidently declared, basically tossing a Molotov cocktail into Darwin's mailbox, if the story is to be believed. These fossils were then supposedly shipped off to the National University Research Institute in DC for more analysis. But here's where we hit the real twist, and it's something important to keep in mind when you hear tales like this. The thing is, while this Antarctica story is super compelling and sounds like something out of a blockbuster movie, it has never been confirmed by mainstream science. Not a single credible paleontologist, not a reputable university, not a major scientific journal has ever substantiated this claim. The scientific community, by and large, brushes it off as a hoax or a sensationalized tall tale. And honestly, for something that would fundamentally rewrite every science textbook, you'd expect a little more buzz, wouldn't you? The scientific consensus is pretty clear. 600 million years ago, our planet was just starting to see the very first stirrings of multicellular life. The idea of advanced humanoids, even tiny ones, existing then simply doesn't align with the overwhelming evidence we have from geology, genetics, and the fossil record. It's a fun thought experiment for sure, but as for verifiable fact, those Antarctic skeletons remain firmly in the realm of speculative fiction. The Forgotten Birds of Antarctica. Before Antarctica became Earth's freezer, the kind of place where your eyelashes freeze faster than your regret at having traveled to the bottom of the world, this icy continent was something else entirely. Picture a land not buried in snow, but bursting with lush vegetation, teeming with life, and home to the oldest modern bird scientists have ever found. That bird was once a sleek, fish-hunting, duck-like dynamo called Vegavis ei, and its fossil skull just cracked open a prehistoric mystery that's been ruffling feathers for decades. In 2011, a group of paleontologists with the Antarctic Peninsula Paleontology Project, or the APPP, was scouring the icy outcrops of Antarctica. They were not looking for birds, but for signs that dinosaurs once stomped through the ancient forests here. What they found instead was a nearly complete bird skull, tucked inside a rock dating back 68.7 million years. That was right at the end of the Mesozoic era. When scientists from Ohio University ran the skull through advanced micro-CT scans, jaws dropped. The beak was long and pointed without any teeth, a reduced maxilla, and even a specialized bone structure found in modern birds. Even its brain was found to be definitely bird. Professor Patrick O'Connor of Ohio University said this fossil underscores that Antarctica has much to tell us about the earliest stages of modern bird evolution. In other words, Antarctica is a fossil paradise. It was once home to some pretty terrifying feathered creatures. According to lead researcher Chris Torres, evolutionary biologist at the University of the Pacific, Vegavis ei was built for underwater combat. Think of it as a prehistoric love child between a duck, a grebe, and a raptor with a fishing license. It had powerful jaw muscles designed to snap up fish while darting underwater with its feet, much like today's loons and diving birds. While Vegavis was bobbing along Antarctic shorelines, Tyrannosaurus rex was ruling North America with teeth like steak knives, right up until the asteroid impact that changed everything. But get this, some researchers believe the lush, cooler Antarctica might have functioned as a climate refuge during the devastating extinction event 66 million years ago. As the rest of the world suffered miserably, birds may have migrated to Antarctica because it was cooler and safer. You may already know that after the asteroid hit, it wiped out 75% of all Earth species. You may also know that only one group of dinosaurs made it out alive: birds. But what scientists have only started to guess is the why. The birds may not have survived because they had the biggest claws or sharpest teeth, but rather because they flew the coop. They went south, survived in Antarctica, and are still flapping, eating worms, and squawking to this day. The Ghosts of Deception Island. If Antarctica had a haunted house, it would be shaped like a horseshoe, surrounded by chin-strap penguins and steaming from the belly of a still active volcano. Welcome to Deception Island, a place so remote and mysterious it feels like another planet. This isn't just some icy outpost with a cool name. Deception Island was once a bustling hub of sealers, whalers, scientists, and soldiers, right up until the Earth kicked them out. Today, it's a ghost town, a volcanic one with zero permanent residents. Let me set the scene. Deception Island sits off the northwest coast of the Antarctic Peninsula, part of the South Shetland Islands. It's got one of the safest natural harbors in the region, Port Foster, which is nestled inside the flooded caldera of an active volcano. You can only enter through a cliff-lined gap called Neptune's Bellows. In the early 1900s, whalers and later scientists swarmed the island. The Norwegians kicked things off in 1906, boiling whale blubber into oil. By 1912, the Hector Whaling Company had set up a full-on factory town with 150 workers scraping a living out of dead giants of the sea. Poor whales. Then, in 1969, the island erupted. British base B was destroyed. Scientists abandoned their post. Even the whaler cemetery, home to dozens of souls lost to harpoons and hypothermia, was buried beneath volcanic ash. Deception Island had lived up to its name. You know, being deceptively welcoming and then killing everyone. After the disaster, the island never really reopened for business, and now the whole place is said to be haunted. Do you see why I wanted to wait and discuss Deception Island? It deserves its own listing. Today, all that you'll find on the island are giant rusted whale oil tanks, collapsed hangars, bleached whale bones, and an eerie silence. Visitors report unsettling sensations, cold drafts that seem to come from nowhere, and the constant sense of being watched. The Sci-Fi Channel's Destination Truth team even camped here to investigate. And yes, they too heard bumps in the night, though they never did catch any ghosts on camera. Whalers Bay, now a designated historic site, is the most infamous spot. It's Antarctica's oldest ghost town, and it sure looks the part. It's been untouched since the early 1970s, which means everything from the rusting boilers to crumbling buildings are exactly as they were left, like a film set left to rot. And still, tourists flock here, risking being caught in an eruption and tormented by a very cold spirit. Despite all the warnings, tourists and researchers return every summer. Spain and Argentina run seasonal science stations here. Adventurous travelers brave the volcanic shores for a dip in the island's hot springs. Now that I've said it out loud, that sounds pretty fun. Would you risk the ghosts of polar explorers to take a dip in Deception Island's toasty hot springs? Let me know in the comments. The Evil of Antarctica. Somewhere between the icy abyss of Antarctica and the vacuum of the moon, a wild conspiracy has thrown on its parka and gone viral. A very famous astronaut has supposedly discovered a great evil slumbering at the bottom of the world. You hopefully remember Buzz Aldrin, the second man to moonwalk before MJ made it cool. He became the oldest person to reach the South Pole in 2016. That alone deserves applause and maybe a hot cocoa. But shortly after landing in America's Amundsen Scott Science Station, things went sideways. Buzz started feeling short of breath. At 9,000 feet above sea level, with cold air slicing through your lungs like a pack of angry knives, that's not unusual. Doctors diagnosed him with altitude sickness, though it probably felt like a heart attack, but he was going to be okay. But here's where this snowball really picks up speed. According to a video floating around Facebook like a lost balloon at a kid's party, someone who claimed to be close to Neil Armstrong's mom said that Buzz saw something in Antarctica so terrifying it nearly killed him. It wasn't altitude sickness. It wasn't a heart attack. Buzz Aldrin saw something that nearly scared him to death. I don't know about you, but I've been scared before. Real scared, but never so scared that I literally almost dropped dead. What in the world did Buzz see down there? Did he behold the ice wall in all its terrible splendor? Did he glimpse the portal said to be in Antarctica leading to other worlds? Did he see ice giants? The legendary Ningen monster? What? The man who leaked this information, who has not been named, said that Buzz reportedly claimed, "We found out things we shouldn't." What does that even mean? It sounds terrifying. Apparently, it means nothing. Everyone's favorite internet sleuths over at Snopes.com debunked the screenshot of the leaked text in December 2016, noting it was missing basic stuff like a timestamp, engagement stats, and any proof it ever existed. Superstation 95, a now defunct conspiracy theory hotspot, published the article pushing the claim. They aren't a trustworthy source unless your idea of news includes Bigfoot's tax returns and the moon being hollow. But hey, those are fun stories too, okay? So is this whole thing fake? Not exactly. Buzz Aldrin did go to Antarctica. He may not have tweeted about evil pyramids, ancient alien demons, or interdimensional penguins, but he did visit Antarctica and he did get extremely ill. Buzz got fluid in his lungs and suffered from low oxygen levels. Medical staff at the station ran checks and then flew him to McMurdo Station, and then to a hospital in Christchurch, New Zealand. But what about the evils of Antarctica? Maybe Buzz did see something and it's being covered up. Just because the tweet was debunked doesn't mean that Buzz Aldrin didn't behold the face of evil itself, possibly in the form of an alien hiding out under the ice. But what it was, that's anyone's guess. Is Antarctica gaining ice? Antarctica just did something that no one expected. A backflip. Kidding. It gained ice. In a world where glaciers are melting like ice cubes on a summer sidewalk, NASA satellite data shows that between 2021 and 2023, Antarctica packed on more than 100 billion tons of ice per year. Everyone's freaking out about Antarctica melting. But here's the data showing us that Antarctica is accumulating ice, not losing it. Does that mean that climate change is over? Definitely not, but it is a weird situation that has scientists scratching their heads. Researchers at Tongji University in Shanghai analyzed over 20 years of Antarctic ice data using NASA's GRACE and GRACE-FO satellites. These satellites track changes in Earth's gravity caused by mass shifts, like melting ice or snow piling up. They found that from 2002 to 2020, Antarctica was losing ice fast, and the rate was speeding up. It was losing 81 billion tons per year from 2002 to 2010. Then, from 2011 to 2020, It was losing 157 billion tons per year. But then, something strange happened. Between 2021 and 2023, the ice sheet flipped the script and gained about 119 billion tons per year. 4 major glaciers in East Antarctica even switched from shrinking to growing. But why? It wasn't a miracle. It wasn't aliens. Scientists think it was the weather, specifically a freak uptick in snowfall, also known as a precipitation anomaly. Think of Earth's atmosphere like a sponge. Warmer air holds more moisture. More moisture creates more snow when it hits Antarctica's frigid interior. That's exactly what happened during those 3 years. It was a rare, extreme snow dump. And of course, there's a catch. While East Antarctica had a snowy growth spurt, the rest of the continent is still bleeding ice. The glaciers feeding into the ocean, especially those in West Antarctica, are speeding up, crumbling at the edges, and slipping into warmer seas like butter off a hot knife. And that's what drives sea level rise. It's this melting that will see coastal cities in the USA and the rest of the world be submerged like Atlantis. Scientists say the snowfall has temporarily offset large losses, but they haven't stopped. The ice is still melting. And while I've got you here, let me clear up another myth. Climate change doesn't work like a microwave. It doesn't heat every part of the planet equally or instantly. For example, the Arctic is warming up to 4 times faster than the global average, while Antarctica, on the other hand, has been more climate resistant until recently. But it's all changing pretty fast. Sea ice around Antarctica, once considered relatively stable, is now vanishing at record rates. Temperatures are rising, ice shelves are cracking. This temporary gain is only a blip, so don't get too cozy. Invest in some air conditioning, any supplies that might be used for building an ark, and maybe some penguin food. If you could be part of the first Antarctic colony or city, would you jump at the chance? Let me know in the comments, and thanks for watching.
Be sure to stay tuned for extra content you might have missed.
The giant egg. In 2011, researchers discovered a mysterious object in Antarctica. It turns out it's a giant prehistoric egg. The fossil looks like a deflated football, but frozen in stone. This magnificent specimen was once laid by an ancient aquatic beast. Researchers from the University of Texas used microscopic analysis to find out the true nature of the mystery object. Everyone agreed it was likely a fossil, but it wasn't until recently that scientists were able to confirm it 100%. They analyzed 260 reptiles and compared their bodies with the size of the eggs they produced. They then tried to make some guesses about the monster that laid the egg that was found in Antarctica. Based on their research, they believe the creature was about 23 feet long. These scientists were also able to determine that the fossil had a soft shell, meaning it didn't come from a dinosaur. The creature that laid this egg was more similar to a turtle, and so it was most likely an aquatic reptile. One of the possibilities is that the mother of the egg was a mosasaur, which would be a truly incredible discovery. Mosasaurs were some of the fiercest and most dangerous monsters that roamed the oceans during the late Cretaceous period. They could grow anywhere from 3 to 56 feet long and were like megalodons on steroids. The mosasaur lived between 82 and 66 million years ago. If this egg really was laid by one, it would be the first discovery of its kind. It would also encourage more paleontologists to start digging around in Antarctica. And if that happened, it would open up the door for a lot more potential discoveries on the frozen continent. Mystery structure. It's always a little suspicious when something strange appears on Google Earth one day, only to vanish the next. That's what happened in 2015 after a mysterious structure was identified in Antarctica by a group of alleged alien hunters. They marked the coordinates and detailed the structure that was half hidden under the snow. But then, it was gone. The sudden disappearance of the unknown structure, which could have been anything from a hidden base to a crashed ship to just some rocks, immediately sparked outrage. Many people believe that whatever was discovered in the middle of Antarctica was hidden from the public on purpose, most likely by someone with the highest level of authority. What the alien hunters found in Antarctica appeared to be a line of doorways. They almost looked like individual entrances into an underground building. The people who discovered the structure believe it may have been part of an ancient alien city. Others have guessed it was a superstructure below ground, left behind by extraterrestrials, a hidden base once used for alien operations on the planet. Some have even suggested the structure had nothing to do with aliens and was instead a secret government facility. Whatever the case, it appears to be gone now. After the discovery of the mysterious structure was posted online, someone erased the images. They blacked out the structure on Google Earth like the CIA blacks out words in a secret document. The Ice Pyramids. Thanks to Google Earth, images of 3 mysterious ice pyramids in Antarctica began circulating worldwide in 2016. The pictures show 3 pyramids in almost the exact same orientation as the trio of pyramids in Giza in Egypt. There are researchers that suggest that some ancient civilization, previously unknown to science, built their own pyramids in Antarctica. Some say it's the lost civilization of Atlantis, while others claim extraterrestrials were behind the pyramids. There are even people who say a rogue colony of Egyptians settled in Antarctica before it was covered in ice. But according to mainstream scientists, the icy pyramids are nothing but ordinary natural geological formations. One of the more grounded explanations is that the icy pyramids are nunataks. This is what scientists call the peaks of mountains that jut out from a glacier or an ice field. It's like a land iceberg, with only 10% of it showing and the other 90% hidden under the ice. Another theory is that the pyramids are artificial, crafted by human hands tens of thousands of years ago when an ancient civilization lived in Antarctica. However, this would mean that the continent wasn't even covered in ice yet, and it was once a balmy paradise where early humans flourished. Unfortunately, this theory doesn't work when compared to scientific research. The harsh truth is that Antarctica has been frozen for 34 million years. If there was a civilization here, they would have existed a very, very long time ago. If these really are pyramids, and they were created by intelligent beings, they've been gone long before humans ever evolved. The Great Face. There is a great face trying to push its way through the surface of Antarctica. The face looks an awful lot like the mysterious face discovered on the surface of Mars, photographed in the Cydonia region. The face on Mars looks like an intelligently designed structure that's been covered in Martian dust over millions of years. It clearly shows what appears to be the face of an extraterrestrial being. In September of 2012, the same thing was discovered in Antarctica, with distinct facial features poking out from the melting ice. Those who passionately believe in an ancient alien presence on our planet have already connected the dots between the face on Mars and the face in Antarctica. The two faces look as though they were made by the same people. The only slight difference is that the face discovered in Antarctica almost looks like it's wearing a helmet, the kind of helmet you might expect to see worn by a space traveler. If both faces were made by the same hands, then whoever did it must have had the ability to travel back and forth between planets. Of course, none of this has been authenticated. The discovery of the face in Antarctica was made by UFO hunters who stumbled upon the strange formation while searching Google Earth. Blake and Brett Cousins, who have over 750,000 followers on their Facebook page, were the ones who brought the discovery to the public's attention. It was found in the Admiralty Mountains near McMurdo Station, but since no excavations have been done, we don't know if the face is a real structure or just a convincing pattern in the ice. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. And now for number 6. But first, it's shout-out time! I want to say a big thank you to Chris Wilmore Dizon and the Anti-Tryhard for supporting this channel. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already for more videos about amazing discoveries. Hidden ecosystems. In 2011, scientists discovered mysterious blooms of phytoplankton underneath the surface of the ocean in both polar regions. 2 completely unrelated studies revealed logic-defying underwater blooms growing near the seafloor in the North Pole and underneath the sea ice in Antarctica. These mysterious blooms likely support hidden ecosystems that scientists don't know anything about. To understand these curious ecosystems, we need to start at the beginning. Phytoplankton are small algae that account for roughly 50% of the marine food in the ocean. Without phytoplankton, marine life would crash, and there would be a natural disaster of unimaginable proportions. A phytoplankton bloom is when these algae reproduce very rapidly, leading to an overabundance of nutrients. This is normal, but only at the surface of the ocean. Because phytoplankton requires sunlight to grow, they don't typically bloom at the bottom of the sea floor where there isn't any light. So let's get back to the news in Antarctica. The southernmost continent is home to extremely nutrient-rich waters and huge phytoplankton blooms in the summer. But in the wintertime, the ice is too thick for the blooms to develop. New research has shown that bottom blooms are happening anyway, even in places where there's extreme surface ice. Scientists identified huge phytoplankton blooms in almost complete darkness underneath thick Antarctic ice sheets. Scientists also believe there is a secret ecosystem under the ice with large numbers of creatures feasting on the phytoplankton. The biggest issue now is that scientists can't exactly observe what's happening underneath the Antarctic sea ice. The whole place is still a huge mystery, but there does appear to be a lot more activity than anyone expected. Ancient wildfires. Looks like Antarctica was on fire 75 million years ago. This took place during the Cretaceous period, one of the warmest times in our planet's history. James Ross Island of Antarctica was home to a temperate forest, and it was a tropical paradise when it wasn't burning. It was so hot that researchers have discovered evidence of raging infernos that burned the forest down and sent dinosaurs fleeing for their lives. The discovery comes in the form of charcoal. When ancient fires burned down forests, they left behind a thin layer of charcoal. That thin layer was buried in sediment that was later frozen in ice, and now it's been scooped out by scientists. According to lead researcher Flaviana Jorge de Lima from Brazil, the discovery shows just how common raging wildfires were during the age of the dinosaurs. Even in Antarctica, it wasn't unusual for forests to burn down due to extreme heat. But just how in the world did fires start on the icy continent? Surprisingly, Antarctica had plenty of ignition sources back then, including falling fireballs from meteors and lightning strikes. And of course, volcanic activity could ignite vegetation and burn down millions of acres of trees. Abandoned expedition huts. There's a lot more abandoned ruins in Antarctica than most people realize. The very first structure built on the frozen continent was done so at Cape Atar in 1899. A wooden building was constructed as the first hut in the region by Carson Borcherevink's expedition crew. The structure was a simple hut, but it proved to be incredibly stable. It was the first artificial structure built on Antarctica, and it's still there right now. Even though the hut was only needed for about 3 years, it had to be strong in order to withstand the brutal elements in Antarctica. The hut at Cape Adare was the first to be constructed, but it certainly wasn't the last. Much of the Antarctic Peninsula, the northwestern tip of the continent, is covered in abandoned structures. There's the huts at Hope Bay that were built between 1901 and 1903. And on the southern side of Antarctica, beneath the Trans-Antarctic Mountains, there are even more abandoned structures. Cape Royds is home to the hut built by Ernest Shackleton and his crew when they were living in Antarctica between 1907 and 1909. And there are plenty of others out there. The only place you won't find structures in Antarctica is pretty much everywhere on the continent's interior. It's only along the coastline where expeditions left their marks. Many of the huts are even filled with old equipment from the early 20th century that the explorers couldn't take back home with them. All of these things serve as time capsules just waiting to be found. The Pegasus wreck. There is an abandoned plane in Antarctica partially covered in ice, waiting for someone to rescue it. The wreckage dates back to October 8, 1970. A fierce storm had just blown into Antarctica, and the pilots of the C-121 Lockheed Constellation plane, nicknamed the Pegasus, had a serious problem on their hands. They didn't have enough fuel to turn around and go back to New Zealand, so they could only move forward through the blowing snow and ice. But without any visibility, the pilots of the Pegasus couldn't see where they were going. The storm was so intense that pieces of the plane's exterior were being ripped off and blown away by the frigid wind. Then, without warning, the Pegasus crashed into the frozen wasteland. The miracle was that all 80 people on board survived without any major injuries. They were all rescued and taken to McMurdo Station, where they were able to continue with the Antarctic research they'd planned. They were definitely shaken from their experience, but nobody got hurt. Only the Pegasus was damaged during the storm, which is still stuck in the exact same place it was when it crashed over 50 years ago. Emerald icebergs. There's a phenomenon in Antarctica in which icebergs turn a brilliant, shimmering shade of emerald green. These jade icebergs are only found in Antarctica, never in the Arctic, which is highly unusual. They've been captivating scientists and curious explorers for decades. But up until very recently, nobody understood how the shiny green icebergs formed. National Geographic photographer Christina Mittermeier believes she may have cracked the case. According to Christina, the unusual emerald icebergs are likely created through a combination of two processes. First, the iceberg forms at the base of an ice shelf in the Southern Ocean. At the exact same time the iceberg is forming, yellowish-red glacial dust from the bedrock of Antarctica, rock from the solid continent underneath the ice, gets mixed into the formation. Glaciologist James Leah from the University of Liverpool described it as Antarctica's version of mixing blue and yellow paint to get green. There isn't anything otherworldly about the emerald icebergs. Instead, their existence is as simple as nature mixing two colors together. UFO crash site. There is another crash site in Antarctica, one that's a little more controversial and mysterious than the wreckage of the Pegasus. Curious internet sleuths identified what appears to be a crashed triangular craft in the middle of Antarctica, covered in a thin layer of snow. It could just be a rock, but there aren't any other rocks near it. There's nothing in the area where the supposed craft was discovered except snow and ice. To make matters even more suspicious, there appears to be a trail leading to the mystery object. It looks like a skid mark from where something hit the ground and slid through the snow. Unfortunately, this is the only information we have at the moment. There's definitely something buried in the middle of Antarctica and is shaped like a triangular spacecraft, but we don't know what it really is. We'll have to check back in a few months to see if the object is still there, or if someone has secretly recovered it. Thanks for watching! What's your favorite mystery from Antarctica? Let us all know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe and give this video a thumbs up. See you next time. Bye!